Greetings, loyal readers of TV Day's Drama Digest. Buckle up for an emotional roller coaster as we dive deep into a story that has left our hearts pounding and our tissues soaked. Today, we unravel the gripping saga of Rachel Black and her mother, Kristen DiMera, a tale woven with guilt, revelation, and the fragile threads of memory. This is not just a story about a daughter visiting her mother in prison. It's a profound exploration of love, loss, and the shadows of the past that threaten to engulf them both. What happens when Rachel's buried memories resurface, and how will Kristen, locked away in Statesville for 6 long years, face the storm of her daughter's awakening? Let's peel back the layers of this heart-wrenching drama and find out. The shocking revelation: Brady's confession. The air was thick with tension in the Black family living room, where the flickering light of a single lamp cast long shadows across the walls. Rachel, now a young woman with her mother's piercing eyes, sat across from her father, Brady Black, her hands nervously twisting the hem of her sweater. The conversation had started innocently enough, reminiscing about old family vacations, laughter-filled summers, and the warmth of a life that now felt like a distant dream. But then, Brady's voice faltered, his eyes clouded with a sorrow Rachel had never seen before. The words that followed shattered her world like a hammer through glass. "Rachel," Brady said, his voice barely above a whisper, "there's something you need to know about your mother. Kristen, she's been in Statesville for 6 years." The room seemed to tilt. Rachel's breath caught in her throat, her mind scrambling to process the revelation. 6 years? Her mother, Kristen DiMera, the woman who had once braided her hair and sung her lullabies, was not traveling the world or lost to some grand adventure as Rachel had vaguely assumed. She was in prison. Statesville, no less, a place whispered about in Salem with dread. The weight of those 6 years pressed down on Rachel's chest, each second stretching into an eternity as she stared at her father, searching for a sign that this was a cruel joke. "Why?" she managed to choke out, her voice trembling. "Why is she there? What happened?" Brady's face crumpled, the lines of guilt and regret etching deeper into his features. He reached for her hand, but she pulled back, the sting of betrayal already taking root. He explained, haltingly, that Kristen had been convicted of a crime so heinous it had torn their family apart. The details were murky, something about a betrayal, a scheme gone wrong, and a courtroom that had shown no mercy. But for Rachel, the specifics didn't matter. What mattered was the gaping hole in her heart, the realization that her mother had been suffering in silence, while Rachel had gone on living oblivious. A daughter's guilt, Rachel's inner turmoil. The days that followed were a blur of anguish for Rachel. She wandered the streets of Salem, the familiar sights of Horton Town Square, and the Brady pub now tinged with a surreal haze. Her mind was a battlefield, torn between fragmented memories and the crushing weight of her father's words. Kristen, her vibrant, fierce mother, locked away in a cold cell for 6 years. How had Rachel not known? How had she not felt it, the way a daughter should feel her mother's absence? It was during a tearful conversation with her best friend, Holly Jonas, that Rachel's emotions erupted like a dam breaking. They sat on the pier, the cold wind whipping through their hair as the waves crashed against the docks below. Holly, ever the loyal confidant, listened as Rachel poured out her heart, her words punctuated by sobs. "It's my fault, Holly," Rachel cried, her voice raw with pain. "I don't know how, but it's my fault. If Mom's in prison, it's because of something I did. I know it." Holly's eyes widened, her hand reaching out to steady her friend. "Rachel, you were just a kid 6 years ago. How could it be your fault? You don't even remember what happened." But that was the problem, wasn't it? Rachel didn't remember. Her memories of that time were like a puzzle with half the pieces missing, scattered fragments of arguments, raised voices, and a fleeting image of her mother's tear-streaked face. There was something about E.J. DiMera, her uncle, and a challenge, a dare, perhaps, or a test of loyalty. Had Rachel been involved? Had she said something, done something, that had led to Kristen's downfall? The uncertainty gnawed at her, a relentless beast that refused to let go. Holly tried to reason with her, her voice gentle but firm. You can't blame yourself for something you don't even remember. Maybe you should go see her. Talk to her. Find out the truth. The idea struck Rachel like a lightning bolt. See her mother. Go to Statesville. The thought was terrifying, yet it ignited a spark of determination in her heart. She needed answers, needed to look into her mother's eyes and understand why their lives had been torn apart. But more than that, she needed to know if she was the villain in this story, or if there was still a chance for redemption. The journey to Statesville, a daughter's resolve. The drive to Statesville Penitentiary was a journey through a landscape of despair. The road stretched out before Rachel, gray and endless, flanked by barren fields and skeletal trees that seemed to whisper warnings. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, as she rehearsed what she would say. How do you greet a mother you haven't seen in 6 years? How do you ask her why she's in prison without breaking her heart or your own? The prison loomed ahead, a fortress of concrete and steel that seemed to swallow the light around it. Rachel's stomach churned as she passed through the security checks, the guards' cold eyes and the clanging of metal gates amplifying her dread. She was led to the visiting room, a sterile space with chipped tables and chairs bolted to the floor. The air smelled of disinfectant and despair, and Rachel's heart pounded as she waited, her eyes fixed on the door through which her mother would enter. When Kristen DiMera stepped into the room, time seemed to stop. She was still beautiful, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, her eyes carrying the same intensity Rachel remembered from childhood. But there was something else now, a weariness, a fragility that hadn't been there before. Kristen's gaze locked onto her daughter, and for a moment, neither spoke. The silence was a chasm, filled with years of unspoken pain. Rachel, Kristen whispered, her voice breaking as she reached out, her hands trembling behind the glass partition. My baby girl. Rachel's throat tightened, tears spilling down her cheeks as she pressed her hand against the glass, mirroring her mother's gesture. Mom, she managed, her voice barely audible. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know you were here. A mother's heartbreak, Kristen's struggle. For Kristen, seeing Rachel was both a balm and a wound. Her daughter, now grown, stood before her with eyes full of questions and pain. Kristen had spent 6 years in Statesville, each day a battle to hold on to hope, to believe that one day she might reclaim the life she'd lost. But now, faced with Rachel's raw emotion, Kristen felt the weight of her choices more acutely than ever. She tried to keep the conversation light, asking about Rachel's life, her friends, her dreams. But Rachel wasn't here for pleasantries. Mom, why are you here? She asked, her voice sharp with desperation. What happened? Why didn't you tell me? Kristen's heart ached as she searched for words that wouldn't shatter her daughter. She wanted to protect Rachel, to shield her from the ugly truth of the events that had led to her imprisonment. But as she looked into Rachel's eyes, she saw the determination, the need for answers. And then, like a dam breaking, Rachel's memories began to return. It started with a flicker, a memory of a heated argument between Kristen and EJ, Rachel's uncle. She remembered standing in the DiMera mansion, clutching her favorite stuffed bear, as voices rose around her. EJ had challenged Kristen, accusing her of betrayal, of endangering the family. Rachel had spoken up, her childish voice cutting through the tension, saying something she couldn't quite recall. But whatever it was, it had changed everything. The memory was incomplete, but it was enough to send Rachel spiraling. Mom, did I do this? Rachel's voice was a whisper, her eyes wide with horror. Did I say something that got you sent here? Kristen's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks as she shook her head vehemently. No, sweetheart, no. This isn't your fault. It was never your fault. But her words felt hollow, even to herself. The truth was more complicated, a tangled web of lies, loyalty, and betrayal that had ensnared them all. Kristen had made choices, dangerous, reckless choices, in a bid to protect her family, and Rachel had been caught in the crossfire. The awakening. Memories resurface. As the visit continued, Rachel's memories surged like a tidal wave, each one more vivid than the last. She remembered the night of the confrontation, the way EJ's voice had dripped with venom as he accused Kristen of orchestrating a scheme that had nearly destroyed the DiMera empire. Rachel had been there, a silent witness, her small voice adding fuel to the fire when she'd repeated something she'd overheard, something about Kristen's plans, something she hadn't fully understood. The memory was a knife in her heart, the realization that her words might have tipped the scales, leading to her mother's arrest. "Mom, I remember," Rachel sobbed, her hands pressed against the glass as if she could reach through and hold her mother. "I said something to EJ. I didn't mean to, I was just a kid. But I told him something, and he used it against you. It's my fault you're here." Kristen's heart broke at her daughter's words, but she forced herself to stay strong. "Rachel, listen to me," she said, her voice firm despite the tears in her eyes. "You were a child. You didn't know what you were saying, and you didn't cause this. I made my own choices, and I'm paying for them. But you are my light, my reason for holding on. Don't let this break you." The words were meant to comfort, but they couldn't erase the guilt that consumed Rachel. She left Statesville that day with her heart in pieces, the weight of her memories threatening to crush her. The drive back to Salem was a blur, her mind replaying every moment of the visit, every tear, every word. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had betrayed her mother, that her childish words had set this tragedy in motion. The path forward, redemption or farewell. Back in Salem, Rachel threw herself into uncovering the truth. She pored over old news articles, court records, anything she could find about her mother's case. The more she learned, the more she realized that Kristen's imprisonment was the result of a complex web of DiMera family drama, with EJ at the center. Rachel's role, though small, had been pivotal, a single sentence from a child, twisted by EJ to seal Kristen's fate. The realization was both a relief and a burden. She wasn't solely responsible, but she had played a part. As the days turned into weeks, Rachel grappled with her next steps. Should she confront EJ, demand answers for the pain he'd caused? Should she return to Statesville, beg her mother's forgiveness, and promise to make things right? Or was this the end of the line for Rachel in Salem, a town that now felt suffocating with its secrets and lies? For Kristen, the visit had been a bittersweet gift. Seeing Rachel had rekindled her hope, but it had also forced her to confront the pain she'd caused her daughter. In her cell, she sat alone, staring at the ceiling as she thought of Rachel's tear-streaked face. She vowed to protect her daughter, even from behind bars, to find a way to give Rachel the closure she needed. Conclusion: a story unfinished. So, dear readers, where does this leave us? Are we about to say goodbye to Rachel as she flees Salem to escape her guilt? Or will she stay, fighting to uncover the truth and free her mother from the chains of the past? The drama is far from over, and the stakes have never been higher. Rachel's journey is one of redemption, of facing the ghosts of her past and finding the strength to move forward. And for Kristen, it's a testament to a mother's love, enduring even in the darkest of places. Will Rachel find peace, or will the shadows of her memories consume her? And what of Kristen, locked away in Statesville, holding on to hope for a reunion that may never come? We hope you enjoyed it and look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe TV Days Drama Digest for more updates on Days of Our Lives.